What's going on YouTube? RDAP Dan here, Federal Prison Time Consulting. Hope you guys are all having an amazing Wednesday afternoon. It's about 4 o'clock East Coast time, and today we're going to be talking a little bit about white-collar defendants and what you should be able to avoid if you're actually really paying attention. So there's many mistakes that white-collar defendants, more so than other individuals, tend to make early on, and we really wanted to kind of target what it is that you can do to avoid some of these mistakes. Before we do that, make sure if you haven't done so, take a moment, go ahead and subscribe to our channel. You definitely want to tap on the little bell up in the top right-hand corner of your screen so you can turn on notifications. Also, we want to talk about a few other things that we're going to be doing here in the very near future. So we'll jump to the purpose of the content in this video in a second, but we're going to give everybody a few minutes to join us. I know it's early on a Wednesday afternoon. Many of you may still be at work, or you're probably in rush hour traffic right now. So again, you will be able to watch this video later on replay if you're not able to catch it right now. So again, we're going to give you all a few extra minutes to join in. While we're doing that, definitely take a few minutes, subscribe. If you've got a question, you want to post it in the live chat, or you want to put it in the section for questions in this video, you can do that as well. It's beautiful outside right now, guys. I actually am getting ready to head down to Boca Raton to go meet with one of our clients and go over a few things prior to their sentencing. So that is why we decided to do this video a little bit earlier today. This was supposed to be a video that wasn't going to release till this evening to try to catch most of you when you're at home so you guys could all catch up the content. So something that I really want to talk to you guys about, which we've been talking about, is we have a DIY service that's going to be coming out for some different programs, some different services, some e-courses. A lot of you need the help that everybody else deserves. Unfortunately, not everybody has the same financial budget. So we've decided to create some very unique, some very, very sophisticated information here that we're going to be able to release with you guys at a much reduced cost for those of you that cannot necessarily afford the one-on-one service that we provide. There is a link in the description of this video where you can get more information about that, and I also will post it right here in the live chat as well. Let me go ahead and copy this here and copy it in here for you guys. So here's a link that you can click on the information if you'd like to get more information on what the DIY is it should be released very shortly. Right now there's a list where if you would like to get information about the DIY services, there's a link where you can put yourself on our email notification list specifically for that. And as we get closer to releasing it, we'll be able to provide you with email updates to what it's going to look like, the different courses we have, the various pricing options that you might have. So we want to make sure you guys have all of your answers, and we want the input. We'll be able to create and expand on this from getting the awesome input that you guys have been providing over the last couple of years. Something maybe that you want to see that's already in there. Jenny Good has been working tirelessly on this. Many of you that maybe have been sending your emails and you haven't gotten responses right away, part of the reason is because of how what a big part of she is including with this. So we're going to talk about that on a different video, but I do want to give you the ability to put yourself on our email list so you can get the access to that here in the near future. So let's kind of talk a little bit about today about why we're here. And let me open this up so I can see some of these messages here. Quarantinus Kennard, I've been. Don't know what you mean, my man. If you want to re-ask that question, that would be helpful. There's the course. I just listed the link for you to add yourself to the email subscription email on that. So talking about white-collar defendants, some of the biggest mistakes that are made and some of the biggest mistakes that I think individuals should avoid. And I can tell you I'm probably not alone in this. Most prison consultants would probably tell you the same thing, specifically the ones that actually do the work, put in the time, and they don't just give you some basic tips on, here's how you get into RDAP, here's how you reduce your sentence. That obviously is a huge question. Many of you want to know, the qualifying factors, or maybe there's lacking information that your attorney gave you surrounding RDAP. These are very basic questions that can be answered in a 5-minute conversation. It really depends where you're at in the phase, where you're at in your case. Have you already taken a plea? Have you already been sentenced? Or are you early on? Were you just under indictment? Are you under criminal investigation? And I can tell you, the sooner in your situation that you reach out to somebody for help, the more likely that you're going to get the outcome that you're looking for. So if you're really driving yourself to obtain that desirable outcome of whatever that best situation could look like, and you're a white collar individual, and this applies to everybody, but we see the white collar individuals really hit this roadblock more than others. So one of the biggest things that we will hear from one of our clients, a criminal defendant getting ready to potentially face a federal prison sentence, is when they hire their attorney. We all know attorney ranges can range from your criminal appointed defense attorney, which costs you nothing, all the way up to high six figures into the millions if you're spending that type of money on attorneys. Now, those of you that are spending a high dollar on attorneys, what we see happen quite often is you end up hiring a former U.S. attorney. And you'll tell me, well, I've got a former U.S. attorney, as if that is going to somehow give you an edge on another individual. And what happens is when you get this thought process of, well, I have an ex-U.S. attorney who is now my criminal defense attorney, and they're going to be able to pull strings, or they're going to have access, or they have connections, I can tell you that that is not really going to make much of a difference. And what happens is when you hear this, you start to go through the mindset of, I can relax. I can put all of this weight and all of this stress on my attorney because they are going to be able to come in here and do additional techniques that a regular criminal defense attorney that was not a former U.S. attorney might be able to do, or there might be able to be some additional strings that they can pull. And I can tell you, I'm not going to say there are instances where some foul play might take place and favors were called in. We have yet to see it for any of our clients. And we've had several clients that tell us how their attorney is a former U.S. attorney. And I can tell you the outcome that they receive is typically the same outcome that another individual will receive based on the amount of work that went into the case. Whether it's be favorable or not favorable, a lot of this is really going to happen from the mitigating factors on how involved you get into your case. So the more information and the more progress that you start to make, and the more involvement that you allow yourself to take place within this, holding your attorney accountable, whether it's a former U.S. attorney or just your regular federally appointed attorney, if you stay involved enough with a federally appointed attorney, you can very commonly create the same outcome as somebody that has a former U.S. attorney. So if you have a former U.S. attorney and you're somehow under the illusion that because you have a former U.S. attorney that you don't need to do anything and that this attorney is going to have some magical abilities and contacts that are going to have you end in probation or end in a case dismissed, you need to really pull your head out of that cloud. And yes, that's an ultimate goal. We all want to see that happen, but it's not typical. It's not common. And the things that can be avoided and not falling victim to this sand trap is by you getting engaged early and start paying attention to the reality and not living in any type of a fantasy world, or just thinking because you spent more money that you're going to get a better outcome. If you look at a lot of these high profile white collar crimes that are going on right now across the United States, you'll see that a lot of these white collar individuals, and we're talking high profile cases, are still ending in criminal sentences of going to prison. If you look at Lori Loughlin, she had her opportunity to take plea deals, and here she is getting ready to face, a decent amount of time for her involvement in the admin scandal. So what's another one? Living in denial. We kind of talked about that in the first one. Living in denial as a white collar defendant, it's very common. I went through the whole phase of living in denial, and the reason why a lot of us live in denial, because it really does it goes along with that short term of living in denial. In the short term does sometimes allow you to sleep a little bit better. You might have the denial of, my friends and family told me that I'm not actually going to be going to prison. Maybe your friends and family are telling you, well, you're a good person, you're a father or a mother. The judge is going to see that you're a decent person. They don't send people like you to prison. And people like you, meaning people that have never been in trouble before. Maybe you've been a tax-paying citizen for the last however many years of your life. Maybe you've owned several very lucrative and productive businesses where you're employing, people in your community, and you're thinking that this is somehow going to make a difference. Not to say that those can't have some factors in playing, and the factors that those usually play when you're a first-time nonviolent offender, the factors there is you're going to be lower on the guideline table. You're going to have a criminal category history of a lower number than somebody that's been in and out of trouble. But just because you've never been in trouble before, and that you've been for most of your life a law-abiding citizen, and you got yourself caught in something, whether it's insurance fraud or Medicare and Medicaid fraud, or various types of white collar fraud, whether it could be embezzlement, tax fraud. Maybe you were a stockbroker or mortgage broker and you got caught up in something, and this was not the way you've always lived your life. It was a very short span of what you've done, and you somehow live in this denial right now that is going to be the mitigating factor of why you're not going to go to prison. When you live in this level of denial for a long enough period of time, you really start to believe the bullshit yourself, and maybe your attorney's telling you no, and you start avoiding your attorney's calls because, again, in the short term, it's easy to pretend like these problems don't exist and just to fantasize how somehow you're going to will this into turning into probation. You need to really wake up and not allow yourself to live in this fantasy world and not allow yourself to be too comfortable with this living in denial. You need to force yourself to understand the facts. Look at the worst case scenarios. Look at case studies of individuals that are similar to your situation. Ask your attorney for a list of case studies. Ask your attorney for a list of individuals that have gone through something similar to you and what was their outcome. So many things are going to play a variance to the type of plea deal you're taking, to who your judge is, to the amount of the loss, if you're talking money crimes or drug quantities. There's many things that are going to factor in, and sometimes we tend to focus on that one Hail Mary story that we saw of somebody that only received probation or they got a ridiculously short sentence. Things you won't know. How many people do they cooperate against? What type of judge did they have? There's many factors that you may not be able to pull up and see. Maybe your attorney has access to some of this because maybe it was one of his clients, but many times a lot of the information that you want to see that really determines why that individual had that truly favorable outcome could be information that is not available to the public. Like it might be information that's on paper, but you don't have access to it. So you don't want to just assume that you're going to have this same type of an outcome. Hey, Jenny, how are you doing? Jenny Good joined us today. She's having her lunch. She's joining in to chat with us a little bit. But yeah, so to me, it's very important. A huge roadblock and a huge mistake that we see a lot of the white-collar defendants make is they really do live in a large portion of their time early on in denial, thinking that things are just going to somehow fix themselves because they dumped the money into this. So don't allow yourself to fall victim to denial. Another one we hear this all the time as well. Here's another huge one. And these are in no specific order, so don't think one is more important than the other. Another one that we hear all the time, I have a very lenient judge. My attorney told me that I have the best judge in my district that I could possibly have. Out of all the judges I could have gotten, my attorney told me I have the best one. We hear that and we want to go to this conclusion of, again, somehow this is going to end in probation. I don't know that there's any such thing as a lenient judge. I'm sure there's judges that are harsher than others. I'm sure there's judges that are whatever the guidelines are or whatever U.S. probation recommends, that's what they're going to impose. And yes, that's not always favorable. Sometimes it is favorable. But I can tell you that when you think of a lenient judge, I tend to think of when we grew up, everybody had that lenient parent or that lenient somebody in your family, a family member that would almost let you do or get away with murder. There's not very many judges out there that are just going to look the other way and say, you seem like a great guy, I'm going to give you probation. For any of you out there that are seeking the potential of a probated sentence or a highly reduced sentence, if you think that is going to happen from just strong will and dumping a bunch of money into your attorney without taking any of the responsibility onto yourself and doing mitigating factors aside from what your attorney's dealing with. Your attorney's going back and forth with the prosecutor, going back and forth with what the charges are. Maybe they're arguing the dollar amount. Maybe they're trying to get some reductions in points for cooperating, whatever that might be. That's typically what your attorney's focus is going to be. Something that a consultant does is completely different. What we do with our clients, we're not involved with telling your attorney what they should do. Yes, we will give you some information. We'll give you questions to help hold your attorney more accountable to make sure that the basics are being done. But our job as federal prison consultants is to work with you and your legal defense team on what we can be doing aside from what your attorney's doing. What are you doing in your community? How are you engaging in your letters? How are you preparing for the pre-sentence interview that is going to play a huge part in the type of sentence that you're receiving? How are you preparing for your sentencing allocution? What information are you providing your attorney to make sure that whatever sentencing memorandum that they're going to produce at sentencing for the judge, what information are you making sure you're providing them along the way to give them all of the bullet points and the facts of what they're going to need to create that true picture of who you really are? When you really start understanding this, you realize it's not just one silver bullet or one magic button that's going to fix all of this. We're talking Prepping for the pre-sentence interview is not and we have clients right now that are going through this, that are realizing that it's much more involved than what they initially anticipated. So much goes into that because if you don't take control of the interview, or at least make sure you have yourself well prepared for what you're going to present in this interview, you shouldn't walk in there empty-handed, in my opinion. You should have your personal narrative completed, make sure that it's on point, make sure that it's really demonstrating a strong level of accountability, it's identifying victim factors in there, it's explaining what you could have done different, what you've learned from the situation. If you think you're just going to jot some of this down and you're going to have this masterpiece and you don't have somebody to hold you accountable to what these should look like, what in the past has created those objectified outcomes that we're looking for, if we can break this down for you and show you a success method and a roadmap to what makes sense and what's worked for many people prior to you, why wouldn't you want to engage and have somebody on your team that knows this? I get it. Many of you will talk to your attorneys and say, hey, I'm thinking about hiring a consultant. And a lot of them may either say you're crazy, or these are just guys that have been to prison that are going to take you for a ride, or you may hear the common statement of, well, it's your money. If you want to waste your money on a consultant, go ahead. Many of you may be in payment plans with your attorney where you have this very high fee that you're paying your attorney, and maybe you're afraid to bring it up to your attorney because the minute your attorney thinks you're going to spend money somewhere else, all of a sudden they're going to start sending the bills back out your door. The problem is you have to do what's in the best interest for you. And maybe hiring a prison consultant is not in the best interest for you. Maybe it's outside of your budget, which again is why we've created the success method on the DIY program, where we'll be able to help those individuals that can't afford the high dollar one-on-one amount. And if you're interested in that, if you're watching these videos right now going, God, I wish I could hire a consultant, I just can't afford, the several thousands of dollars that it's going to cost, put yourself on our mailing list. And here's the link. It's in the live chat right now. It shows you exactly this will allow you to go on our email list so we can update you to when this is going to be ready, which should be ready within the next 7 to 10 days. And it will give you the ability to take advantage of a lot of these services on a do-it-yourself basis, where it's going to be spelled out. There's going to be videos, audio tutorials, templates all involved there. And if for some reason, once you're going through that, if you're like, hey, I really need to take this to the next level, I do need the one-on-one service, whatever package you purchase, you'll be able to apply that cost towards the one-on-one service. So you'll still have the ability to do that, but this might give you all that you need. Some of you are a little more self-reliant and you don't need so much of a wind-up. If that's going to be a better fit for you, then by all means, take advantage of it. But white-collar individuals, I tell you, and I'm not here to pick on you guys, but I really want you to pay attention to what we're talking about right now. So many of you think, I don't need this help, or you think I need to go hire somebody that looks and sounds just like me as a white-collar defendant. I'm telling you right now that the best thing you can allow yourself to do is go outside of your comfort zone. You don't need to go spend $15,000, $20,000, $25,000, $30,000 on a consultant to get the help that you need. Now, maybe you're going to feel better about spending $25,000 or $30,000 on a consultancy, but I'm telling you right now that if you're actually looking for what is going to make the most progress in your situation, and you're actually willing to stay engaged, that's another huge mishap that we see is individuals will engage early on, and then they'll go incognito for days, weeks at a time. We'll send messages, text messages, emails, trying to follow up with you, see where you're at. And if you're not staying engaged, if you're not doing the work, if you're not doing the coaching calls with Jenny, these coaching calls are such a strong part of the success working, because these coaching calls in the end are going to create a document that you're going to be submitting to your attorney that you can use in your pre-sentence interview. You can use this in your attorney's sentencing memo that's going to go to the court and the judge will see. And this document is going to be a well-redefined version of everything you've done, from where you were lacking accountability, what your weaknesses were when you started this, why you did what you did, and how you got to where you are, and what changes that you've made. It's going to give your attorney so much more information to build that picture of you without just saying what a great guy you are. It's really going to expose all of your flaws, all of your weaknesses, and it's going to demonstrate that you are looking to take this serious. You're not begging for some probated sentence. What you're begging for is for the judge to see in all the different various angles that we're coming at this. Every approach that we have, every different thing we have you doing it's like a giant gear spinning at the same time. All these moving parts, when they go in the right direction and they create that consistency of value, what's going to happen is the judge is going to keep seeing it over and over and over again. And that is what's going to create the opportunity for the judge to think to himself, maybe this is somebody that I don't need to sentence within the guideline range or the high end of the guideline range. Maybe this is somebody that I can consider giving a reduced sentence to or possible probation. But just coming out and saying, Your Honor, I'm sorry for what I did. Please consider me for probation. I'll never do this again. I have kids and a sick wife or a sick mother or a sick dog at home. You're not going to get it through sympathy. The judge is not going to have this level of sympathy for you just because you're a decent person. We need to expel way beyond you just being a decent person. And we need to show the judge why you are not just like every other white-collar defendant that he's seen in his courtroom. Only way you're going to do that is truly identify what this roadmap is and get your mind out of this comfortability zone that many of you have been living in and realize that this is going to take a level of uncomfortable situations for a period of time to obtain the desirable outcome that you're looking for. One of the last things that we hear people say, and this is, again, these are in no specific order, most of you are out on supervised release right now. Most of you probably didn't have to put up any money. Most of you, the judge allowed out on a potential signature bond. Those of you that are out on a signature bond right now that think, well, they let me out on bond. They must not think that I'm that serious. And many of you have been on bond for years. Well, I've been on pretrial supervision now for 1.5 years, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. And I've been doing everything right. I haven't tested dirty on anything. I've been showing up for all of my appointments that my probation officer has set for me. They've come to my house and they talk to me, and they're so nice when they come in, and the government's so nice when they talk to me. Everybody is so friendly. When I talk to the prosecutors, they have nothing but good things to say to me. And when I talk to the DE agent or the task force, whoever arrested you, everybody's so friendly. This is not an indication that you're not going to go to prison. This is an indication that you're cooperating and you're making their job extremely easy, which is fine because you want to cooperate, because you don't want to piss them off and get booted out of the guideline range and go to trial and have all of that. But because you're cooperating and you're just going through the run of the mill, yes, they're going to be friendly to you. I experienced the same exact thing when the DEA, every time I'd have to go to any meetings, they would, hey, Dan, hey, bud, how are you doing? How's the weekend? How's your kids going? When probation would come to my house, hey, Dan, how's your daughter? He would literally sit down at the table. I remember one time my probation officer sat at the table and had bacon and eggs with my daughter. Amazing guy, super friendly. However, I still went to prison. And all of these things that took place, when the DEA was nice to me, when the prosecutors were nice to me, when probation was nice to me, it kept reinforcing my mindset of, I'm not a bad person. They're seeing that. The judge is going to see that. I've been on pretrial now for a couple of years. Are they really going to send me to prison? Again, it goes back to that level of denial. Sitting in that level of denial is not healthy. I'm not saying don't appreciate that they're being nice to you, but don't confuse that with an extra level of kindness, thinking you're not going to go to prison or that they're not going to be after time. Because I can promise you, when you go to court, when you go to sentencing, when the prosecutor gets up and talks about you then, yes, they may say a couple of favorable things that you've cooperated and they have no problems if the judge wants to downward depart. But believe me, they will point out what you did that got yourself into trouble. They are going to articulate and really create a picture that they want to see the judge, that they want the judge to see, that you're a criminal that deserves a prison sentence. They are not going to say he deserves probation, Your Honor, or he's a good guy, give him a second shot. That is not going to be what you're going to hear. So the more you tell yourself the truth and you live in this hard spot right now and you know what you could be doing different, the more likely that you're going to create the outcome that is going to be desirable for you. That does not necessarily mean probation. This is why I stress to you, you don't have to go through this alone. There are individuals that have gone through this. Every single one of our clients, as we go through their cases with them and we follow them from the beginning, the middle to sentencing and beyond, we do case studies on them on what worked better for this person, what could we have done different on this person. As we learn new techniques and new information is provided to us, and having experts on our team like Tom Root, Tom Rue, Jenny Good, Diane Carpenter, all of these individuals that make up who we are, we're able to learn from what it is that you're going through. And every time we advance, the people that are coming through the door next, they're getting to take the benefit of where we were to where we are to where we're going. Trust me, there's many clients that were clients years ago that wish they would have gotten the level of services that we're able to provide now. You have to take this serious, and you have to realize that if you truly want the help, you need to, at the very least, set yourself up for a free consultation. In the link of this video, there is a link where you can click on to get a free appointment with us, where you can set up a consultation. It's a 15-minute call. Tell us a little bit about your situation. Let me find out if there's anything that we might be able to do to put you into a better situation. Not everybody is going to be an ideal client. Again, this is why we're creating the success method, the DIY services, for those of you that do need the help and you can't afford the several $1,000s of what this might cost somebody. Take advantage of the DIY. See if there's a program that fits your budget. I guarantee these programs are going to range anywhere from $500 up to $1,500. If you're in a serious situation where you need help and you see the benefit and you can't come up with a $500 fee, I'm going to assume that this is not that serious to you and you don't think that there's value in this content. You have to be the one to put your foot in front of the other and take that next step, guys. That's all we got today. Just really wanted to focus on the white collar individuals that are going through something and they don't understand that this isn't a game that you buy your way out of. You need to take it serious. Pick up the phone. Many of you right now are thinking, I should have called Dan, I should have called Dan, I should have called Dan, or I'm going to call Dan next week. Be proactive. Phone number's on the screen, 509-434-4695. You can email me. Email is dan@federalprisontime.com. All of my contact information is in the description of this video. Find out with your attorneys. Find out what you can be doing different to really create a better potential outcome for yourself. And if you want your attorneys to get on a call with us, if you want to do a three-way, you're the one that might go to prison, you're the one paying the bills, tell your attorney at the very least, before you make all these passing judgments, let's hop on a call, let's do a three-way, and let's see what these guys have to offer. Because I can tell you, we've helped thousands of individuals through the time that we started this channel, from people watching this channel to people that have become clients of ours. We've helped thousands of individuals with the level of service and the scope of work that we do here at Federal Prison Time Consulting. Guys, I'm RDAP Dan. Hope you all have an amazing afternoon. Just remember, people helping people, communities method, one day at a time. I hope you guys have an amazing rest of your week. I've got another video coming out that's going to illustrate a little bit more about what the success method is and the DIY, an interview I did with Jenny last week. I got to finish editing it up, so stay tuned for that. That should be out by the end of the week. I love you guys. Stay safe. Do the right thing. Talk to you soon. Later.